Okay, so Hieros Gamos explained through the dream that you had, which was one of these um, milestone learning dreams that will accompany you, and you will always get more wisdom from it to be able to to re refer to it, yes, and to receive the explanation in these images. So it's your female and male flow currents coming back together, merging back as one. But that means, because they're always one, that what that means is they're coming back into a harmonious flow where they flow together as one. Instead of, both of them, because when one is off balance, the other one is off balance as well. So this showed itself in your dream where you were a vampire, you were both vampires, and you had you were just done with it. You were done with that existence of being a vampire, and what that meant was tired, and that wasn't you anymore. This was like a hamster in a wheel, always taking energy, living off of others. See, these are all um, parables to the energy flow. Yes, when we are conditioned, that is how it was in the inverted matrix system. Growing up in the inverted matrix system is um, to not, it doesn't have to be 100% at all. There are those that are much more takers than others, but it was a collective current that was inverted, so that we lived off of the energies from the outside, but also that were not freely given, that were taken. And um, this can only happen in unconsciousness, because when full consciousness is there, energy would not be allowed to be taken. It would only be given freely, but then it is through love, because of love and compassion. It all comes through the heart. The conscious giving comes through the heart. So only in the unconsciousness can energy be taken away, only in fear. Only in, when you're bullied into fear, or when you are have a trauma and you are not looking there. So then when you're not looking there because because of the trauma, and I talk about this in other videos, how that works, that is where energy is taken, and where you lose it, and where you unconsciously allow it to be taken, because it is only ourselves that can take it back. When we take it back, nothing is lost. That is also, it's not like 40 years later we are then able to patch up the hole, and take it back through full awareness, through full consciousness, through holding space for all of it. All of that, what caused this, hole in the aura, where the spin turned around into the inversion and left the flow of life, and left the tree of life, and left the flow of light, and left the light, turned its back on the light, ran away from the light. Because the light was seeing, the light is consciousness, and the light is full awareness, which means feeling. And when there has not been the wherewithal to hold space for that which happened, that caused this pain, then that is like put into quarantine. It's shut down. We have to, it's a self preservative mechanism to look away until we have that strength again to look there. And life will always bring us and trigger these areas, yes, and trigger these emotions, these very unpleasant emotions, and always bring us back, our attention back to it, yes. And then when we go into reaction, we feed it, we feed it. However, there's, even when we're in that conditioned loop that keeps us in the suffering and that keeps us in stuck in that area. However, it happens over and over and over again, and every time a little bit of it receives that awareness, a little bit of awareness. And that's how, like, even though it may seem like emptying a lake with a teaspoon, bit by bit it gets, and because where it gets less, that charge, that is where the currents, they couldn't feed back. And the energy flow where there is trauma, where the torus feels then either through one big impact or through slow repetitive impacts begins to slow down and then eventually inverts, and then creates a blockage in the flow. And where that is, that slowing down, that inversion, that resistance to, I don't want that, because it feels bad. Those aspects of ourselves, that energy is now holding itself out of the natural flow currents, and it can't flow back through the heart, because that's where the heart is compromised still. But every time when it gets triggered again, and we, also can get re-traumatized, which is you're staying in the loop, but nevertheless, there is always some presence there that makes it a little bit more bearable, a little bit more less, charge, a little bit less charge, until there is that ability to hold full space. In the past, this is the trauma also passed on through the ancestral lines. There can be lifetimes where there was never an ability to hold space, and then it's passed on. However, each generation after that can hold a little more space, can hold a little more space. And now this is the time where we come in, and we pick up that baton from the ancestral lines, that charge, and this is the time where we can hold space for it, because yes, it is the reckoning. It is the time of reconciliation. It is the time of the light coming back in. It's the time of remembrance. It is the time of also the harvest, where we reap all of that. What we reap is, so reaping is like bringing in the harvest. What is that? It is when that charge gets reintegrated, gets received back into the heart, when we can hold space for our pain, for our traumas that we took on from this DNA. And it was also repeated in our own lives to create that. That's how we that's how the connection is made. That's how we go down into the dungeons and liberate those soul aspects of the DNA. And it is also aspects of the physical body, because this is the time of ascension of the physical body. So to take the physical body up into the higher octaves. We cannot take that trauma with us. We cannot take that density with us. The inverted spin cannot fit through the portal into the higher dimensions, which is in the heart, through the heart. So, yeah. Okay. Yes, this is the duality where the heart space is compromised and where the spin slows down and inverts, that creates duality. Duality within and density at the same time within the body. So eventually that would turn into malfunction and illness. And in the mind, which is adversity, which is projection. And projection is what is off, of the duality. And in the duality, the male-female aspects, that's what brings them off balance. This is the duality. But it can be a projection of a positive or negative. So when you put someone on a pedestal above you and I'm nothing compared to you, and you put yourself down, that is off balance. That is a distortion. That is not the truth. That is not coming from the truth. And or the other way around, when we look at someone and we send anger, bad feelings, bad wishes towards them. We have, and when it gets more subtle, it's that energy of judgment. And judgment is not discernment. Discernment is to recognize what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. Okay? What is also discernment is to hold space for yourself, to honor life, to honor yourself, to be able to honor yourself. And that is when you can honor the other. But honoring the other means honoring their soul. It does not mean honoring the behavior that comes from that false self that is in the duality to that certain degree, that is flowing its currents in the inverted through the egoic mind, because the egoic conditioned mind that has been placed in the inverted matrix system, and that we are dissolving that programming. We are taking the power of that programming away, and it is only powered by our soul, by our consciousness. However, the inverted egoic mind is powered by unconsciousness, because it can only use, it is the consciousness that falls asleep that then can be used, and that then flows through that egoic mind. It's just a word that I use to describe this kind of mind implant that has been part of the inverted matrix system, that has been part of this density where we are coming from, where we were born into, and where we are now waking up. We're waking up to it, from it, and arising out of it, like phoenix out of the ashes. Eventually, when the phoenix arises out of the ashes, that is the birth into the new earth, into the new world, into the next higher dimension. This is what brings the female male aspects out of balance, and the way that it showed itself to you in the dream. And so taking exactly so being born into a system where it is normal to take energy without it being given freely. And yes, so you can see this everywhere. um, how animals are being treated, how nature is being treated. It's just used as resources. And not only that, but also humanity has been used as resources. It is like parasitical organisms in the body. Yes, they use the body as resources because they are not a part of that system anymore, you know. So because the spin is inverted, it takes itself out of the current. It's not flowing as one anymore in the current. And in those pockets, energetically, in those inverted pockets, which is a density in the body, that's what creates a platform or a living space for parasitical organisms to come in, and they can only live in those spaces. And they live off of that energy that is being inverted, and then where does it go? You know, they live off of that. So there's a physical representation of that as parasitical organisms in the body, and viruses, for example, Epstein-Barr, herpes, streptococcus. Those are just a couple that come to mind now, but there are I guess, I don't know, there's so many different species. And also, they all have their story of how they were created, because God, the divine, doesn't create them. So, you know, that they also originally were coming from a divine blueprint, and they were also part of, you know, the good bacteria, the life organism. And then trauma happened to them, and distortion, and they were distorted to a degree, you know. And this didn't happen naturally in that sense. It happened through outside, um, again, it happened through outside intervention, that also came from that same consciousness, parasitical consciousness, that on its level of existence had already fallen out of the light. Yes, okay. So that was the image of being a vampire in a dream, and I was tired of it. And there was um, my partner, and my partner was like a part of me. And we were both vampires, and we were in Venice in a it was the yearly huge, or I don't know if it was yearly, but it was cyclical, huge gathering of vampires. And it was in Venice, and it was all with the masks, you know, and big, big costumes and everything. And so there was the knowing that there was only one way to liberate, to become free from this existence, because, as you know, there was also the backstory of everything that this body mind system has recorded about what it knows about vampires, the principles of vampires. So it was that we couldn't like commit suicide anyways. That's not a that's not a that's not liberating anyways. To do that onto yourself is not liberating. um, but then also, that wasn't even a thought, because we couldn't be killed. That was the thing. We were, already dead in that sense. We couldn't be killed. And the only liberation was that there was a constellation happening that happened very rarely. It was like 10,000 years or something, and I could literally feel, I mean, this was so real. I could feel all of this, that and this constellation was exact, so there was this alignment happening, and that opened a portal. And but when that portal opened and it was exact, was only for a very short time, like a few seconds, like, let's say it was like that moment of 12 o'clock where one day goes to the next. It's like 1 second is that moment. Or where 1 year, um, rolls over into the next year. Yeah. So where it was exact, it was like very, very short time. And in order to take that portal, there was just one thing you needed to do, and that was you had to look into the eyes of your beloved. And that's it. You just look into the eyes of and there's love, there's love, there's presence, there's awareness, and during that second, and that's it. But you couldn't be distracted. You really had to be present in love. You had to be present in love. And in the dream, the dream is always the outside expression. The mind shows you in images and in the parable of the story, these principles. So what happened was that I was already lying in bed, ready for it. I didn't want to get distracted, and I was just wanting my partner to be there with me so that nothing could happen and get in the way, because this was so important. I would not, missing this would have been devastating, to have to wait another 10,000 years. Now, I'm getting to, I will get to what it means for, everything, what it means here. And then we will explore the part of Hieros Gamos that came this morning. So, but okay, so here in me, I already felt an anxiety of not making it, right? So an anxiety is already off balance. And my partner was like, okay, because we were in this, it was like this
huge old castle building or something in Venice, and in the courtyard they were already, partying and gathering and everything. And my partner went off and he said, and he wanted to, there was a little bit of time left, not much, but there was some time left, maybe an hour or so. And he said, I just want to check it out one more time. I just want to go there one more time. So this is the male-female principle showing me how it's been off, yes? The female wound is being abandoned by the male principle. That is that fear of abandonment and the sense, the feeling, the sorrow, the hurt of being abandoned. And needing, needing the other, needing the male principle to fulfill her. That's again, of course, the addiction, but also the dependence on the outside, on something other than yourself. And the male principle was the addiction and the, let's say, the wound or the lack, this is the lack of seeking acknowledgement, of being, I said it in German. I said, what was, on the dance floor of vanity. Exactly. So it is being seen and seeing. It is this status. Exactly. So again, you see, that's the outside. It is like, oh, I want to be seen as someone, have a like a reputation. I want others to acknowledge me, and that comes through the outside, through the doing. It has not to do with the spiritual, it's not the coming from balance. So it is a compensation. Yes. So that was the male wound, off balance, you can say, wound, off balance. And then the female is being totally dependent on him and being so scared that he will abandon me. Yes, that he will not come back. And then, of course, if he doesn't come back and he abandons me, I'm finished. I'm doomed. Okay, so, but at the same time, that was still there, but it wasn't like super strong. It was relatively subtle. And lo and behold,
There come it was like so short before the portal opened, and he came in. How was it? Okay, I don't remember this detail, and it doesn't matter for here because whether he came first or the other guy came first. So, um, I think the other guy came first. Okay, doesn't really matter. Let's just say the other guy. So the overlord of the vampires. Okay, so this is so he came in and with his sword, and he was the one who was going to slay us, who wanted to keep us and not allow us to be free. And he came around the bed and was, and in that second, really the last second, my partner came back, ran, came to me. And so here was the scenario of, on this side there was this, and he was like, he was played in my dream by, it doesn't matter. Anyways, he was like this Roman centurion with a huge sword, and he lifted his sword and he wanted to slay us both, and he wanted so to kill us so we couldn't be free. And this is the egoic mind that, this is the unconsciousness, and this is that false self, the mask, right? The masked self. So as my partner was going out, he wanted to, for a last time, dance in that, on that dance floor of vanity, and in that identity. Yeah. So all these masks are the identities of the false self that we have taken on, who we think we are, and playing in a world that is, that where everyone is a taker, and where that is normal in a sense, where we are fed by the inverted. So, for example, when we are victims, and that, how we have been conditioned to, how the system has been conditioned to feel that it gets love. Yes. So if someone feels sorry for you, or in the sense of pity, or when we are a victim, and then we speak from the victim consciousness, then we get energy. So that's what keeps also that victim consciousness strongly in place, is because that's the only way for some of us, or to a certain degree at least, that we have learned to receive energy, that we are a victim, and then we receive that attention. Because even negative attention is, for a child, is better. I'm not saying that that is negative attention, but there are many children where it's so inverted that they've never received positive attention, and you will see them do things that will then afford them negative attention. And it's like any kind of attention, just, it's the need for energy from the outside, from the primary caregiver, obviously. Yes. None of this is wrong. It's just off balance. It's not the blueprint. It's an expression of a system that is off balance. Okay. Um, of course, of course. It then becomes wrong when it becomes. Okay, let's not get into that. Of course, it becomes wrong when we take energy. Yes, and it is always dependent on, is it coming from innocence, or is it coming from a sense of blindness and I don't care about the other, a closed heart, and from survival, you know? And then is it inflicting, consciously inflicting pain on another, or is it inflicting pain on another but unbeknownst to the one that is inflicting it, and they would never want to inflict it? Okay, so let's not go into that any further. um, So he was representing the egoic mind because the egoic mind needs the unconsciousness. That is what it runs on. It runs on the unconsciousness. So it will try and draw that try, well, this is its how it's programmed, to draw our attention in and to keep us in whatever dual identity, which is a split off from life, from God, from light, from the self, from the soul, the true self, identity. It's an identity that doesn't take the true self into account, and that doesn't mean you have to know about the soul. It just means taking that being of the true self into account, which means that is what is running the show. Is it coming from my soul, from my true being, from my light, from my heart? Is that stronger? Is that where I'm coming from? Or through the egoic mind, it will always be a distortion of um, me against everyone else, survival, yeah, and duality, so that we can get hurt and we can hurt others, even though we don't want to. But it's like when we're in that mindset, it's that mindset of divide, of adversity, and then all this entanglement and hurting each other happens because we are not acting as one. We do not experience each other as one. And then it's like a ping pong going back and forth. And it is also with, for example, with sects and these kind of groups, also religious groups, like really specific, like strong, strong religious groups. Um, Also, families can be this way, is that they want you to stay in that mindset, to stay in that flow of, you know, of, of, yeah, stay in the mindset, because that is what keeps that structure alive. They don't want you to leave. Leaving is like the greatest sin, and they will do everything to keep you there. And just like the inverted matrix now is doing everything to keep us believing in it, in its false identity, in the false, um, also in the lies, because it can only exist through lies. It can only exist through shadow. That's what it is. It lives in the shadow. It comes from the unconscious. So as soon as there becomes consciousness, the truth is being seen, then it has no more power over us, and we do not cater to it anymore. And when we do not do that, when we take ourselves out of that system, we do not cater to it anymore. We are not then working within and for the system, because we can be living within but still not working for the system. And again, that system of inversion is the reflection, is the representation on the outside of that inverted egoic mind implant that came in at some point when the earth fell to that degree, and when also parasiticals were attracted into the system, to have this experience of that level of duality and density, to create eventually, as a part of the creation of expansion of consciousness in the heart space. Because everything that has been split off from us, all that energy that has been split off from us, when we reintegrate that, when we bring that back, when we hold space for it, and it has taken a journey so deep into time and space, so deep into the density, that our light then
has gathered all that information, has made all that space. It goes all the way into that density to bring itself out. So the currents actually, also the nervous system expands that way. So that means that the initial charge, the initial compression that creates charge, until that charge is released again back into the system, actually creates an expansion of the whole. Yeah. Yeah, so there he was, wanting to stop this liberation. And it is also that that consciousness is unconscious. Okay, so this overlord of vampires completely identified in his narrative, in his world, and there's, and there is no desire for liberation from that yet, because that's not where that mind-body complex has come to yet in its journey. Mind-body complex, so that's it. It may be a younger soul. It always has to do with, um, it has to do with where the soul is on its journey. It may still be in the cycle of compression, of creating that compression, and not yet ready to reintegrate. Yeah. And so that threat was there, but in that, because it was, the portal was only 1 second, that's all it took. I looked over to my beloved, and we just looked into each other's eyes. And as it is in these moments of love, where there is just love, no fear, it expands time. So I looked over to him. We locked eyes, and everything was known in this love. There was just oneness. There was no fear. And then I woke up, but I also knew that, and in a sense, then I woke up, and we took the portal. We were liberated. And so the other thing that my higher self came through, and the other day when I was recounting this, is that in the dream it was said, because we were still off balance, remember? We were still both holding some fear or anxiety or need. All of that is coming from the divide within, because when you are in unison within yourself, there is no need, there's no fear, there's no anxiety, there's none of that. There is wholeness, there is peace, and the expression of yourself, what it is that comes into then the world, is first of all service to the light, naturally, and through your unique mind body soul complex and mission, all of that, and you get to experience that. But it comes as one flow. There is no mind in there anymore saying otherwise, or where you can't make up your mind. It's like in a lucid dream, everything is naturally flowing, and it is exactly, there's no question about it. It's everything that you naturally, that is your highest joy to do, to express in this moment. Yeah. Yes, so it's one organism that is completely present, taking everything in, and there's no more within oneself adversity, no more resistance to what is, because there's that open heart, that open space that has space for it all. That is the perfect embodiment of the heart chalice. And that is actually, when that is so, that is the holy grail. The heart space then creates energetically the flow of it, the flow of the currents of the heart on a certain level, create actually that look, it looks exactly like a chalice.
And this is also like a bowl or it makes a ring, it makes a certain sound, but that sound is actually silence. And it is that complete silence that makes space and has space for everything. Where then any noise, and that when that is the backdrop, that silence, and your heart is way open, what it does is that any noise that is distortion comes into the field instantly through that pure love is transformed. And I've experienced this where something that sounded very agitating before, when in deep meditation, in the heart opening, it was like a humming, and there was no more, it didn't cause any agitation reaction. I was just observing how, wow, something that had caused me a sound that, so it was, I'll just say it real short, it was the sound living next to a like a restaurant bar, and it was this room that you could rent, and it was full with Dutchmen, and they were completely drunk, and they were singing, like, it was not singing, it was more like a yelling. Fully drunk, and when that happened in my when I was coming through my pain mind, through the dual mind, it was just, and it was very late, yes, and so I couldn't go to sleep, and it was very agitating, and I was then I had negative thoughts towards them, and I was reacting and projecting negative emotion towards them. This is a long time ago. And then another day I was sitting in meditation and was in a very hard open space, and then I noticed the same thing happened again, a group that was doing the same thing, Dutchmen. And it's a humorous little detail. Yeah, it's not, no judgment at all. Um, and then I noticed, oh, I could feel in my heart the good feelings that they had, even though they were totally drunk. And it sounded like a hum. I could feel in my heart that this was a good energy. And I was able to hold space for it with my heart and with my whole being. And there are many more examples of where the sound actually changes when it comes into this silence, because there's infinite space, and in infinite space everything recalibrates and reconciles and becomes embedded into the heart. Exactly. That is when the heart no longer is compromised, and then it becomes embedded in the heart, and that's the healing as well. And that is when all those inverted currents, then the heart space becomes so strong that it pulls it back. It pulls it back in, it pulls it back up, and the inversion comes back into original spin, comes back into organic flow. Yeah. And so that is the transformation. So it is not that the sense that the darkness comes through, because when that connection is made, that it is touched by love, it is received and welcomed by love, that which feels bad when it is triggered, then it instantly transforms it, and it is a sensation. That transformation feels really, really good and brings this peace, brings an expansion of peace. It is like also, let's say, a hardened muscle when it gets massaged. First you may say, oh, don't touch it, it hurts. But when you do make contact and touch that what hurts, it not in a way of wanting to hurt it, but from love, coming from love, then the spasm, it releases and it can flow again and it feels really good. Then the pain turns actually as a good pain and it turns into a good feeling. Okay. All right. So let's go back to male, female, and Hieros, Gamos. Okay. Ah, yes. Okay. So, very important part of it is that, yes, this is where I left off. Um, yes, itchy nose today. Yeah, this is not just information, this is the transmission. And so sometimes there's just silence coming, needing to come through. Yes, these are healing energies, and when you watch this, you are in this field, you receive it. You can receive it. You can be part of it. You can allow it by osmosis to ring into the silence of your heart, to open the silence of your heart. Exactly, that is the 0 point. Yes, that is the 0 point, and that is the neutrality. Exactly, and we're getting to that. So we were in the dream, there was still aspects of us that were not in full balance. And this was happening before the constellation null alignment. And so there was a fear, and there was, or a need, and a need, and both of that is within me. But I'm speaking now for this is a general um, principle. It's a general principle that I'm speaking of. So even though it's at hand of my personal perspective and story, it is a general principle. Yes. And therefore, it also showed itself in the dream. It showed itself as this constellation that only comes along every 10,000 years, and that there's only 1 second that you have a chance to be liberated. And you have to have your partner by your side, and there has to be, there cannot be any, when you look into each other's eyes, there has to be unconditional love. There cannot be any other thought there that is a division. There cannot be a judgmental thought there. There cannot be a resisting thought there to that love. Yes. So, in actuality, this is again what comes from the higher self. But I hesitate because it is a knowing within me also. That is already embodied. Now I know this as an experience. It is every moment is like that. Every moment we have that chance. So even though we can also see on our Waking Life outer platform, there is also this concept of such an alignment. The concept of ascension being an opportunity to surf the wave and make it into the higher dimensions, or you could miss that, if you don't wake up or if you don't heal, you could miss that opportunity to ascend, and then you would be stuck, continue to be stuck until that cycle returns, which that particular cycle, and it's not taking all the other, as far as I have heard and remember, there are 4 major cosmic, universal cycles that are coming into alignment now, 4 major. So it's like 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, throughout all the dimensions, and so the dimensional time matrix, which is that also, again, my understanding of this universe is 15 dimensions. So that also means that the access is all the way back to that pure awareness, that realm of pure awareness, that very first realm that comes, that is an expression of the void, that is the first dimension, the highest dimension, and that is a formless dimension. And also what I understand is that the first or the highest 3, which is 15, 14, 13, are formless dimensions, but it is already something. It is already some kind of energy, something. And the something is also always no thing, and that is that is pure awareness with no framework. That is that emptiness, that is that void out of which the full potential, the infinite potential out of which all form and the formless existence, which is light already, even though it doesn't have a form, there's some kind of a light, and so there must be some kind of a form, even though we would call it formless. So maybe it's, I really don't know. That part, I don't know. I can see the principles in the form, but the last 3 formless realms, I don't know enough about. Anyways, they exist as one. There cannot be a separation there. There cannot be a separation between consciousness, awareness, and that I am, I am all that I am. That is aware of itself, or that is aware. And so to have, or to be, or to exist awareness, that is the part that is, and that has form. And then throughout the dimension, always more and more intricate and more dense forms, and also stories. And yeah. Okay. Yes. So that, being in that anxiety or the need is already a density, right? Is a duality. And in that story, in that experience, there was that pressure of making that second, right? And however, at the same time, in reality, when you are in trust, you know that this constellation, and this is what was given to me and told to me by my higher self when this came up the other day, was that this exact constellation, that moment of grace, of the portal to liberation, is accessible always, always. And it is accessible in the 0 point of our hearts. So it is accessible when we can be present, when there is true presence. So in every moment, when to be liberated out of this off balance state, out of this duality, which is suffering and pain, the healing of that, the liberation of that, which means the coming back home, because it didn't mean, we were clear that we would not end our existence. It was just ending the existence as vampires, being locked into that kind of an existence of having to keep the body alive by taking energy from others. And that was all we knew. That was, so to speak, I mean, in that dream, that was all we knew, and we had been that way for thousands of years. Hmm. So I knew that it was a liberation out of that. We both, that was clear, out of that existence into an existence of we didn't know what it was, but it was like an essence of us, a pure divine existence. It was liberated, free, and true, and aligned and harmonious. And that is exactly what is happening, in our space-time vantage point here and now. It is happening collectively on Earth and individually. And yes, it doesn't mean that everyone will, because it's not on everyone's schedule, or no, it's not a good word, but path of development to take that route. That has nothing to do with any kind of shortcoming. It's not what they came here for, and and they may have come. Yeah, if whatever is not experienced or achieved, but it's not an achievement, it's not an achievement, is because it is not written that way. It is not their time. Yeah, it is not on their path. So, in every moment, when we meet ourselves with that presence, which is unconditional love, because presence is that opening to the 0 point, to stillness, and that is where unconditional love flows out of. So it can be seen like the void is pure awareness, and when it flows out, it it becomes energy, it becomes light, some kind of light in the and in the first 3 dimensions. Anyways, it is pure love. We call it, we can call it, we can call it love in expression. Yes.
because it is oneness. Oneness will always be love, and it will always be peace, because there is no fear. When you are one within yourself, you are not afraid. It's simply that. And if something shows up, like the overlord of vampires, if it instills fear within you, then it's an expression of that anxiety that you had anyways, to miss it, that something could come and um, um, not allow you, okay, what's the word? Not compromise, sabotage, yes. Something could come in and sabotage your liberation, from the outside. That's only because it's an expression of that fear of being sabotaged that you are holding, because there's somewhere in you, there is that trauma, whether it happened to you in this life in whatever way, or not. It can also be simply within your DNA. Mm-hmm. And if that is still there, then that will, if we do not, because it can't make it. You see, this kind of fear, that is something where the male female is off balance, and that is where we have duality. It cannot make it through the portal into the higher dimensions, into the higher order, into that greater, even though it is a lighter, I want to say it's a greater density of light, but the word density isn't correct here. It is that there is simply more light, because the spin is faster, so it's pulling in that spiritual light. It's pulling in that light through the heart faster, and it doesn't have as much limitation set on itself to let it flow through into the world. Yeah. So we have to meet it, whether we meet it within ourselves, or if it needs to be triggered from the outside. That the system is perfect that way. And that gives us the opportunity to meet it and to dissolve that. And I explained that before, how that works. And this will be directly also on the outside, the expression of it. It will shift. And the sabotage will not be successful. If the sabotage would be successful, it would be because we were not ready yet. We were not ready yet to meet it with our full presence. So that is not a shortcoming on our part. All the mistakes that we make are mistakes made in order to become aware of what is within duality within us, where we are still not aware. So, and this becoming aware, being able to hold presence, making space in the nervous system, being able to run the higher frequential currents, run more light. All of this is this is the development of the soul. This is the process of bringing soul into density, of bringing light into density, of expanding the universe, of expanding consciousness and love. Yeah. So when this happens within the small, we can feel, when this happens within us, that we come into this balance, then instantly what comes out, now we come to Hieros Gamos, is creativity. So the male-female currents, and it can be in an aspect of us, come into balance, and natural creativity comes out. And that is where the light then, coming together into the balance, this flow, this movement, and this coming together of unconditional love, it opens, it's like now, now, since it's not askew anymore, um, that light coming through the 0 point, in the balance, it opens the portal, and unconditional love can flow through us, and that then wants to expresses itself as creativity. And creativity is always a service to light. It's not coming from the mind. It's coming through the heart. Yeah. And it can be subtle. It can be the subtle things like creating a meal. But it's not just cooking and putting things. It's not on a material. It's not coming from the mind. It's like that's when really love can flow into a meal. And you can when you eat that meal, you can feel that. When you hear a song that comes from this place of the flow, through coming from the soul, it resonates with your soul. You can feel that. Creativity really means that you are in that space of direct flow. You can let it through. You can let that orchestrate your mind-body complex to whatever, that the creativity expresses through you. It can be so many things. It is also this being inspired. It's also inspiration at the same time. It's also inspiration. Yes. So this is the third element then, that when the two come into balance and they are aware of their unison, of their unity, of their oneness, and there is no more adversity or distortion then in the way of the flow, then through these two comes a golden child. And why gold? Because gold is, there's something about gold. Gold cannot be tainted. It's the gold. Yeah, okay. I don't want to get into that because it'll take me on a different tangent. So the golden child, the child of light, and so what is created through the light comes through. Yeah. So there are these aspects now, coming back to the dream, that there are both aspects within me I can sense where, and this is, again, this is because it's general. I need to share this, or need. I am inspired to share this. Yeah, are you? Yes, it's not a need, but it's strong. It's a strong. It's natural. It's natural. Yeah. Okay, it wants to be shared without there being a lack, without there being um, without it coming from, I mean, this is the thing, this is the thing, this is what I'm getting to, is that there may still be, because I know there still is that portion within me that also is looking for acknowledgement, yes. hmm and that wants to be someone, but it is still um, equating that, wanting to, because it is equating happiness with being someone specific, some specific expression, and receiving acknowledgement. And that is a mask, that is the false self.
And that is that need still from the, to receive acknowledgement from the yes, from the outside, is still that current that is running, that is in the in the from coming from the inverted conditioning, that is used to, and it's unconscious. Obviously, it's not aware of itself, but it's becoming aware. Um, okay, I need to be someone in the world. I want to be part of the dance. I want to dance out there. I want to. I can't just be sitting here in my cave and nothing is happening. That this is all coming from that current, from that mindset, um, seeking happiness in, I created something and I received acknowledgement for it. And then there's also the part that is the female principle part, that is, first of all, sometimes still feels alone and abandoned by God, and alone because there's not the beloved counterpart is not there. And um, and then also the worry. Okay, there is worry, exactly, that maybe, okay, and this is very this is very, very clearly, okay, this is good. Oh, I really do want to sit in the sun, though. Can we do that real quick? No, 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 no. Later. Let's stick with this. The female part is that, okay, let's grab it. Maybe I'm making all of this up. I'm just positive talking to myself. And how is that the female part? Yeah, hold on. Okay, hold on. I will never amount to anything. That's the male part. That's the seeking for acknowledgement. Yes. Um, right. That I could miss the liberation. Exactly. Exactly. That I could stay stuck forever and alone. Stay alone. Exactly. Stay alone and abandoned by God, by life, and stuck forever. It's already kind of difficult for me to go there now. I'm noticing, because it's already so, this used to be so strong. I mean, I used to have depression for over 35 years. um, I was in very, very, always cycles of bipolar and cycles of deep, deep, deep depression. um, and now I notice that when I'm these are beliefs that I used to have about, life, and when I believed them, when they were strong, then it would pull me down into this pit of doom. Exactly. And of course, there was so much more. There were so many more of these inverted beliefs that were such a weight and pulled me down into completely like the living dead. But now I'm trying to grasp it. Okay, what is still left? I can't find it. Like this part, I'm not saying that it may not, because it has, but as it has showed up in the recent past, it is so subtle, and the knowing of the truth is right there meeting it. So it's like, oh well, that this is your old programming. Obviously, this is your, you know the truth. You know better. Yeah, of course, of course. So I'm just going to hold space for this feeling now, for this aspect, but I can't believe it anymore. Yeah. And I mean, this vampire dream was also a long time ago, mind you. Yes. So the part that is coming now, though, is that when the inner male female is in marriage, I just call, I'm just going to say that, is married, yes, then liberation happens. And because this happens in the first, in the smaller aspects, all the smaller aspects which represent a certain belief, that is off, that is not in harmony with truth. And then it represents also a blockage in the flow of energy in the body, and how the body can function, yeah. And because there has been so much now of this liberation and in the smaller aspects, at some point what happens, this is what what I was shown, that's why I was recently, a couple days ago, brought back to this dream, is that then uh, the entire current, okay, and now we're coming to the Hieros, Gamos, and the Kundalini, okay, we're coming into that now. The entire current, female, male current, um, when it has gathered a certain momentum of liberation, of original flow back, when that then happens, the inner merging as one, acting as one, um, which is coming back into balance of the male-female principle, opening up to 0 point, and that's the neutral divine perspective. That is the perspective that heals everything that it looks upon, that it sees. It is what I said in my last video yesterday. That is the perspective that with that, when you look at something from that awareness, from that perspective of neutrality, which doesn't mean discernment, it doesn't mean that you do not discern. So you're looking at something that's wrong from a neutral perspective, and that doesn't mean, oh, it's not wrong, oh, it's okay. No, it can be totally not okay. But if you're coming inside, not from projecting of the negative emotion. So when you feel negative emotion from that, what you see, which is, of course, um, natural. When you look at something that is bad or hurtful or wrong, then you can already feel the negative, even if it's not within you. You can feel the negative emotion, that distortion within that what you see. It doesn't matter if it's physically in your space or if you see it on the screen. And if you will then allow the reaction to take place, to push that away, and that is then the judgment. Yes, that is the judgment, is projecting what you see, well, sorry, what you feel. You feel that if it's clear within you. Otherwise, it will also trigger your own, whatever is left. So if that is then projected again outward, that keeps that whole thing, that feeds that feeds it. It feeds the duality of it, and it keeps it in space, and it keeps you locked into in your prison, in your prison of, it doesn't liberate that emotion. It doesn't liberate the charge within you, and it will feed what you don't like and what is wrong. What you can see is bad. It will feed that. And distance is not an issue here. Even when you see something on a screen that is happening somewhere in the world, way far away, if you project then your negative thoughts and emotions through thoughts, uh, thoughts and emotions onto what you see, you are feeding that which you do not prefer. Yeah, this is so, so, so important. That is the inverted conditioning. Yes, to liberate that is, and it's very hard to do that if you keep looking at it. Yes, um, you can't actually. How are you going to do that if you keep looking at it? You have to turn around your gaze, so to speak, close your eyes or look away, and
Be present with the emotions, with the sensations in your body. Be present with that energy to receive that back home, because it's a divided from source. It's an agitated, it's an aggressive, it's sad, it's hurting, and so it's hurtful. All of this, it's everything that has been fallen off from the light. So to bring it back to the light, you have to meet it with that presence, and you can't meet it with presence when you're locked into looking at what is happening on the outside. So bring your attention, it's attention, sorry, not necessarily gaze. It's attention, and you cannot bring your attention fully inside when you are watching. Okay, so what is happening? So that's what I mean with gaze. Bring it inside, turn around. When you have received back these energies and you are yourself flowing in that then 0 point, peaceful, balanced state, then if you then look at it, or you don't have to look at it, think of it even. You don't even have to think of it, because what you already did was you made the contact and you healed it within yourself. So that aspect, how should I say this? To the aspect of you that was healed, that is the greatest potential that you have to heal the wrong, to right the wrong, to bring that which is off balance that you have witnessed back into. Okay, so I stated that in the video before, and it's a short video. Okay, wait, where was I? The male-female balance. I got off on a tangent again. I was just saying something. Yes. Current, yeah. So when that momentum, these are two waves, so when you look at the torus field, it's opposite spins. So the top spins in the opposite direction. I can't do it at the same time than the bottom, and it's a figure eight. These pearls, which is the consciousness moving through time and also space. That the pearls are the toruses within the toruses, yeah. um, it is the figure eight. So that's how the energy moves. So opposite spin. When that spin, when all the currents, so all the toruses within your torus field of your aura, when the male female come into that, are married again, come into the balance, and they open up to the 0 point, and now the light unobstructedly can flow through, unobstructedly within the mind-body complex paradigm that is its potential, that it can. So to that degree can flow unobstructedly. Now creativity in full service to the light can be born. And this is also the birth into, it's like it's always fractal, right? It happens on a smaller scale and then always on a bigger scale. So that is always creativity is birthing from the higher dimensions into the more dense dimensions, from the, let's say, we say from our perspective, non-physical into the physical. And it is also, creativity is original. It is original thought. So it is not regurgitated. It is not something that, any kind of creativity is original. And we call it also art, and it cannot be replicated. Yeah. And or we also call it ideas. Ideas, yeah. And it is connecting also, it is connecting the dots in a unique way, in an unprecedented way. Yes. It is taking a perspective that is unprecedented. Yes. And unique. Yes. All of that is creativity. Okay. Okay. So now once again,
that is when we come into balance. Yeah. And this is then the time, or this is then when we are ready to have our twin soul. So this is the on the level, okay, so the incarnated soul, if you go one level higher, you have, into your soul, there is that your individual soul is a soul complex with another individual soul that is your twin, and that creates one soul. And so when that marriage within you has taken place, you are ready. You are ready to express that and experience that on the outside, in the physical. Yeah. And so now we come also, okay, but I have to stop this and continue in part 2, because now we come to the Kundalini awakening. We come to the male female dragons. We come to the dragon lines, solar cosmic rishi. We come to, because all the anatomy within is also the anatomy without. We come to yes, yes. That's how we step into service. Exactly. So when our inner male female, when that comes into balance, then the creativity opens up, and it can be then flowing into the world, and that is our golden child. And I always knew, or this was a notion that I had, was that I cannot have a physical child before I have not birthed myself before. So, and I wasn't exactly sure what that meant, but I always saw that first I would have to become whole within myself and give birth to myself. And this is that expression of the golden third energy that comes from the neutral, and the children are neutral, in that sense. And child is also offspring, what comes through you, that original, that which is new, and that which is of the light and service to the light. Yes, so that is now, or in that process, um, is the next step. Exactly, exactly. And that is also what I see now, is that is an important next step before the twin soul. Or if it's not the twin, I always say, okay, well, I'm not 100% sure if it is the twin that will come and be the divine partner, where that can be then experienced on the outside, that which is already fulfilled and happening on the inside, or a case on the inside, or a reality. It could also be close soul family, let's say from another aspect of yourself from your monadic soul, or another aspect of yourself from your avatar soul. Yes. So that part I'm not 100% sure, because there are people that had their divine partners that were not their twins, and like Franco Di Nicola said, it is not necessarily always the twin. That is individually can be different, depending on so many things. Um, However, it is at the same time, it is a topic also collectively, and that I am witnessing, and therefore it is also a topic within my life. And it is, I feel that there could not be anything more amazing I could imagine than to meet my twin soul, and this meaning within a female body. Yeah. And then to experience that love. um, yeah, it must be like, yeah, so that is it for me. And but not only that, I can also see that this is a
trend. You know, this is a this is happening left and right now in the collective, that the twins are coming together. Yes, let's put it that way. And there is that yearning. Well, it's not like when it still is yearning, you are not fully yet within yourself. And I would say you're not ready yet. You know, however, at the same time, that is not, you know, I would not be ready yet. This is because, and I will explain that too. But there are some twins that come together where they are not within that full balance yet, and they are, however, with each other coming into the inner balance. And so that means that they are still playing the, you know, projection. They're still within the projection, and there's a lot of drama then, and a lot of hurt within, come, you know, when you do it together. But it is also, at the same time, it is also a way of putting yourself into a um, into a pressure cooker where this could be then sped up. The inner coming into alignment and balance could be sped up. You know, there is no right and wrong in that. But for me, it was clear um, that I would not want to do that with my twin, that I would um, want to have come out of projection mode, which means have gained such awareness that when projection happens, I notice it and I don't close my heart, because it would be inconceivable to me. It was because I've tasted it, how painful it is to close your heart to someone that you love truly, where there is true love, and then the closing of the heart there is so painful. So I'm going to leave it at that, because it's been very long, and I will just continue another time.